Hi, I'm William Graham, performing my research video assignment for Professor Gonzalez's PCC Speed 010 Interpersonal Communications class. On my research paper, multiple authors including Hunt, Schwartz, Carew, Bradden, Chibula, and Raw Leader, with connections to educational institutions in Europe and South Africa, collaborated in late 2017 and 2018 to create the research paper I'm summarizing. The paper is titled Dating Persons with Physical Disabilities, The Perceptions of South Africans Without Disabilities, and was published 2018 in the journal Culture, Health, and Sexuality. So the goal of this project showed that researchers developed a vignette with input from disabled persons. And the vignette is structured such that it can be modified easily for delivery to persons of either the male or female gender for their response about attitudes towards romantic relationships with disabled persons. The vignette tells about two persons, one not disabled and one with a physical disability, who meet at a party and talk the night away. At the end, the person with the physical disability tells the person without a disability of his or her interest in him or her, and asks to see them again on a date. At that point, survey participants are asked questions about what they think the person who does not have a physical disability feels about dating the person who does have a physical disability. The idea is that the responses will reflect the survey participants' own attitudes about dating the person with a physical disability. Researchers transcribed their responses and coded them for words that showed their attitudes and then filtered to discover patterns. So the researchers found three main categories of themes while developing in the survey participants' responses, and those included response dynamics, reactions, and influential factors. And we will look at each of these in turn. So the first broad category of survey participants' response dynamics, grouped the survey responses into four subcategory themes. The first being inclusive attitudes, which conveyed positive attitudes towards dating people with physical disabilities. Pity and condescension implied or explicitly stated pity for or condescension towards people without disabilities towards people with disabilities. Responses stating prescriptive tones, for example, containing the word should and variations on it, researchers grouped that into the moralizing category. And the need to overcompensate for disability category described responses by persons without a disability that hold that persons with disabilities need to compensate in some manner for their disability to qualify as dateable. The person with a disability must exceed the expectations placed upon them by people without disabilities, by being, for example, exceptionally funny or charming, to make up for what they lack in physical desirability. The second broad category of survey participants' responses, reactions, contain responses to the questions following the vignette that contain expressions that can largely be described as negative. The first reaction included in the group, disgust, related to the disability or towards the idea of a relationship with a person with a disability. The second theme, disability and insurmountable obstacle, join two dominant sub-themes found in survey response, stigma, and anxiety and complicated feelings. The third category theme under reactions, sex concerns and desexualization, collected responses where respondents voiced sexual concerns about dating a person with physical disabilities, or that desexualized the people within the vignette with physical disabilities. For women, the concerns relate to intimacy, but for men, the concerns relate to physical limitations on sexual activity, so less on intimacy and more on the mechanics of the sexual act. Lastly, the ambivalence and uncertainty category theme focused on those emotions in relation to romantic contact with persons who have physical disabilities. The third and final broad category of survey participants' responses, influential factors, contain responses to the questions following the vignette that contain expressions that can largely be described as being influences on non-disabled persons' feelings towards romantic relationships with persons who have a physical disability. The first subcategory theme, contact, describes negative feelings the person without disabilities associates with a lack of familiarity and lack of past contact with persons with physical disabilities. The study indicated the second subcategory, adjustments and accommodations, which included responses mostly from women who noted the adjustments and accommodations that might be necessary in a relationship with a person without a physical disability, including concerns about burdens of care and knowing more about the physical disability's actual impact. The responses in the third subcategory, curiosity/openness, tended to indicate that when non-disabled persons showed openness toward the idea of dating a person with physical disabilities, that curiosity often served as a motivation. Whether that curiosity is problematic is debatable if the curiosity is driven by fetishizing or using persons with disabilities as an opportunity for personal growth as opposed to having a simple interest and openness. Finally, the responses grouped into the fourth category, disability dependent, showcased responses that indicated that the romantic suitability of persons with disabilities depended on the nature of their disability, where increased functional impairment that disability causes would foreclose the respondent's likelihood towards dating a person with a physical disability, while less severe impairment might be more manageable. So in conclusion, the study findings show largely negative attitudes towards people with physical disabilities, and that respondents without disabilities perceive numerous barriers to dating a person with a physical disability, including social stigma, anxiety, and concerns about the burden of care the relationship would put on them. The findings describe a pejorative nuance and expansion of the myth of asexuality among physically disabled people by showing that people with physical disabilities are actively desexualized by persons without disabilities. The exploration of how to further cultivate the inclusive attitudes of which evidence in the study exists needs to be researched. The study's author suggests that creating more opportunities for contact people with physical disabilities on an equal basis in higher education institutions, the workplace, and public spaces would help. I think that's because if persons with a disability are seen as a real and contributing participant in those environments, that perspective can shift to include disabled persons as romantic partners. And although this study focused on opportunities for romantic relationships for persons with physical disabilities, and my topic relates more to opportunities for romantic relationships for persons with developmental disabilities, the study's survey responses data trends discussed therein likely tracks similarity to what responses would be for persons without disabilities feelings towards romantic relationships with persons with developmental disabilities. That's all I have for now, so thanks for watching.